Hello, and welcome back to the Simplifiers podcast, where we take topics in work and in life and simplify them. And friends, you know, this whole season, we're talking about what in the world is happening out there in the job market today. And I have found an extra special guest for you today who's going to simplify things and specifically break down very tangible ideas on how to be an excellent networker and ultimately help you land that job. Now, my guest today, her name is Melissa Grabiner, and with nearly 3 decades of experience in HR and recruiting, she is a sought-after strategist and expert in talent acquisition. She is currently at Christine Matthews Consulting, CMC, which is a OneDigital company. She works with venture capital-backed biotech and pharmaceutical startups to build out their talent acquisition functions and make key senior-level hires. She's got over 273,000 people who follow her on LinkedIn, so she has to be up to something good here. Melissa has become a well-known champion for job seekers all across the globe. So I'd like to welcome to the Simplifiers podcast, Melissa Grabiner. Hey, Melissa.
Thank you, Mary. I really appreciate you having me, and I'm excited to be speaking with you.
I am so grateful you're here too. And my goodness, we are going to dive into some big stuff here. So everybody, if you are listening to this right now, grab a piece of paper. You're going to take lots and lots of notes, I bet. So let's start at the beginning. What in the world is happening in the job market right now? Like, why does it seem like such a mess, in your opinion?
Yeah, it really is. And it's a really hard topic for me to talk about because I receive at least 50 messages a day from people on LinkedIn all over the world telling me their stories about they can't find a job or they've been ghosted by recruiters, and they come to me and say, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I can't pay my bills. I'm so depressed. And it's so disheartening to see these messages. And this is happening again from people all over the globe. I've been in talent acquisition for many, many years. And the one thing that I could say with certainty is that every couple of years, the pendulum changes back and forth. So right now, it's what I would call an employer-driven market, where in the past, it has been an employee-driven market. And I predict once again, within hopefully the year, it's going to be an employee-driven market again. There are so many companies, specifically in the technology sector, that have been doing mass layoffs. So what's happening is the job market is saturated with really, really good talent. So the competition for these jobs is very, very fierce. Companies are being very selective with the people that they bring into their payroll and into their organizations. And so what's happening is the competition for these jobs is bigger than I've ever seen it. I mean, it is not uncommon for a job posting to have over 1,000 applicants. And so what I try to do with my LinkedIn page is I try to provide tips and tools for job seekers in terms of how to stand out, how to craft a really good resume, the importance of networking, anything I can to provide any sort of tips and tools or motivation. That's really what I use the platform for. But it's a really hard time for job seekers. My heart aches for them. And I really hope that I'm correct in saying that the pendulum is going to change to the other side. And it's once again going to be an employee-driven market where companies they can't hire people because good talent is going to go very, very quickly. Yeah. But I really think it's a tough time right now, and it's really unfortunate.
Well, it sure is. And I can speak to that with the layoffs thing. So the layoffs.info, their report was that there was 262,000 layoffs in the tech industry alone, just in the US in 2023. Mm-hmm. And sad to say, I was one of those 262,000. And layoffs are hard because a lot of times your employer is saying, you're great, we love you. It's just a numbers thing. We have to reduce headcount by X number of people or X number of percentage. And you're absolutely right. I think there's a significant influx of really great talent out there and all striving for the same jobs, right?
Yes. And what I always instruct job seekers when they reach out to me, and I post about this a lot on LinkedIn, is that we always have to plan for A, B, and C. No one is immune from layoffs. I have spoken with people who are like senior vice presidents at their companies that have been there for 20 plus years, have been significant drivers of bringing in money into their company, or have been incredible producers that are laid off. So I don't care how good of an employee you are. I don't care how many awards you've won. If it no longer serves the company, they will let you go. And I don't mean this to sound harsh. It's just the reality of the world that we're living in right now. And so what I suggest to job seekers is, even if you think you're gainfully employed and you're safe, always have your resume updated, always have your LinkedIn profile updated and optimized, because you never know when you're going to get that call. And a lot of times it's the people that think they're safe that aren't ultimately safe, right? And so they think, oh, we'll just, continuing on and work at this company until I retire. Well, all of a sudden I get that call from their supervisor or from HR, and the next thing they know, their job has been displaced and they no longer have a position. And then they're in panic mode. Like, I don't know what to do. I have to find a job. I haven't looked for a job in many years. And actually, the same thing happened to me. I was at a company for 18 years, thought I would be there for a long time. I was let go. I didn't have a resume put together. I was completely in shock. I didn't know even how to begin, even though I've been a recruiter for the majority of my career. So there are definitely tips and tools that I could provide job seekers in terms of what they can do regarding how to move forward once they experience a layoff. But I always suggest to people, again, always be prepared, because it's the people who feel they're the most safe are typically the ones that aren't.
It's great advice. One thing that I did with my team over at Samsung before the layoff, and I think it really served me well, is in our weekly team meetings, we do our stand-ups. I had a running document, and I asked the question around the table, like, what's one thing that you accomplished last week that you're super proud of? And we would document it on that doc. And so when it came time for the dreaded phone call for myself, hey, guess what? I already have fully documented the things that I accomplished on the job every single week. And so it was very easy for me to take those and synthesize that into my case studies and stories for my resume. So I was 2 steps ahead just by integrating that one thing into my team meetings. And, I hope that my coworkers also found great benefit in as well, because it's all in one document. You're not trying to recollect from your brain and your memory.
That's such a great point. And that's exactly what I posted about recently on LinkedIn, is that every time you have an achievement or you add a specific additional responsibility to your job, put it on LinkedIn, put it on your resume, because to go back in time and try to recollect all of your accomplishments, things will get missed. So have that running document that always is updated in real time. So this way, if you have to put your resume together, you're not scrambling to think through what are some of the accomplishments I have and what are some of those achievements. This way you're ready to go. Absolutely great advice.
You and I talked offline before this conversation today, and something that you said was very striking to me. You said, every CEO or head of HR should apply for a job right now at their own company. Why is that?
Yes. So I speak a lot about the candidate experience. I'm very passionate about that. And I'm a big, passionate job seeker advocate. And so this all starts with the candidate experience, which one of the starts of that is the job application process. And I think what's happening is there are so many application processes that are a mess, right? So candidates input their resume, and then the system is saying, well, now you have to manually enter everything in addition to the fact that you just downloaded your resume. And so the candidate experience to me starts with the job description, but the second point of that is the application process. And so if the CEOs, heads of HR, and even like the heads of talent acquisition apply to their opening, they would see what it's like for job seekers. When I was managing a team of recruiters at Takeda Pharmaceuticals, one of the things that my team and I were very focused on was the candidate experience. So every touch point of the process, what is it like for the candidate? And so every quarter we would get together and go through our processes with a fine-tooth comb and say, is there any feedback that we received that we can implement, or what are we seeing ourselves that we can implement? It all also goes back to employer branding, right? And so there's tools out there like Glassdoor and other websites where people are very freely going to these sites and saying, I had a horrible experience with this company and I'm going to share it with you because I'm pissed off about it. Or people go to LinkedIn. I see this a lot lately. People are going to LinkedIn and I don't say bashing, but they're negatively talking about
Yeah.
prior companies that either they've worked with or companies they've applied to because their application process is such a mess. And so if the heads of these companies or the heads of these departments were able to apply for a job, they would see exactly what is the process for the candidates. And maybe that way they can say, you know what, it really took a long time, or there were a lot of redundant steps. I'm going to make this more efficient, streamlined, and effective so the people that are actually applying for these jobs are having a great experience. And again, it all goes back to employer branding, and employer branding is really what can make or break an organization.
Right. And your employer branding out there is what's attracting the top talent. You
Right.
know who I think is doing a great job with this piece in particular is Southwest Airlines. We're going to be featuring Manziel Chapman on the podcast later this spring, and he's a talent acquisition expert there. And I applied for a couple of jobs recently there. Unfortunately, got rejected, but that's okay. They weren't the right match for me. But every step of the way was just 5-star gold. You know, you submit your application. It was very easy in the process. They sent us a text message and said, okay, you know, your application is being reviewed by this specific recruiter. You should expect to hear back from us by this specific date. They have weekly webinars on how to best, you know, handle your interview and, you know, what to expect all along the way. And I just felt like those little details are what make, you know, really it so much better than 99% of the places where people apply, where they send it and it goes into a black hole and they never hear anything ever again. And I just really appreciated it.
No, I love that shout out. And I think that more companies that are getting this right should be applauded for that. Again, you know, what I think a lot of companies don't realize is that if individuals have a poor experience as part of their application process or their recruiting process in general, it's going to be a very hard sell to get those people to want to work at your organization. And I'm a big believer in that. The hiring process speaks volumes about a company's culture, right? So if companies aren't treating candidates right, there's a really good correlation and a really good chance that they're perhaps not treating their employees right. And so if you want to be a magnet of attracting talent, you have to get the recruiting process correct every time.
Yeah. So now we're zooming into how to be a great networker, because one of the things that I've certainly learned in this job search recently is that it's not, in my opinion, about sending out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applications. It's about being very targeted to the companies that I'm most interested in working with and for, but then leveraging those networks and leveraging those relationships with people inside those companies so that you get those internal referrals. And theoretically, your application is being brought to the top of the heap for, you know, when there are 1,000 applicants to one role. So talk us through, like, what are some key steps that you should take to leverage your network to get that internal referral inside a company?
Yes, absolutely. I am a big fan of networking. I think it is without question the most effective and efficient way of finding a new job. And as a matter of fact, when I left my organization that I worked at for 18 years, I found my next role through my network. Long story short, there was a gentleman that worked for me many years ago as a consultant, and I called him and I said, I no longer have a job. I am getting my feelers out for a new position. Do you have any tips or tools, or is anything happening at your current company? And he's like, actually, we're hiring recruiters. Why don't you send me your resume? And I put my resume together, sent it to him. And within 2 weeks, I had a new job offer. And I ended up working at that company for a while. And so leveraging your network is absolutely paramount for anyone going through a job search. I think the first thing someone should do is identify their contacts. So start, and I'll tell you what I did. So this goes hand in hand of the recommendations I'm going to give you. When I was displaced from my job, the first thing I did was I literally took out a piece of paper and wrote down everybody I knew. This included family, this included friends. And I then reached out to those individuals and said, I'm looking for a new position. This is what I'm looking at. Do you happen to know of something, or do you happen to have someone in your network that perhaps I could speak with? This could include, again, colleagues, classmates, friends, or acquaintances. And then reach out to those people. Reach out to them in a personalized and professional manner. The other thing about networking that I think a lot of people get wrong that is really important to mention is networking is not about what someone can do for you. Networking is about what you can do for that person as well. It's not a let me take. It's what I can give you. So it's a give and take relationship. And again, a lot of people get that wrong. The most effective networking relationships that I have built through the years has been on what can I do for that person as well. And there are a lot of people that I have actually helped get new jobs through that, where I would reach out to someone from my network, or it was someone I knew that knew someone else. I would build that relationship and establish that nice relationship. And then I was able to help them in return because perhaps they saw a job posted and they saw that someone in my network worked there. So I was able to facilitate relationships where through my network helping others help them land another role. And so I think it's important that people truly understand and get this right, that it's not always about what other people can do for you. It has to be about what you can do for that person as well. And I think following up with networking is very important too. So if you don't receive an immediate response, let's say from an email or from a message, follow up. Don't be discouraged. If you follow up politely and respectfully to reiterate your interest or reiterate your desire to have a phone call, people appreciate the follow-up, I think, and persistence can really pay off in those networking efforts. And the other thing I want to say is express gratitude, right? Regardless of the outcome, if the networking works or not, always express gratitude to your contacts for their time and their assistance, because you never know if perhaps down the line they're able to help you. And the last thing I'll say about networking is that always, and this is really with the job search in general, be persistent and be patient. You know, building relationships and securing referrals, it doesn't happen overnight. It does take time. Don't get discouraged if you don't see immediate results. Continue to expand your network, stay persistent, and remain patient in your job search efforts. Taking a job or getting a new job takes time. And I think the higher up someone is in the organization, the harder it is to find a new position. So continue to stay persistent. There are going to be good days and bad days. Job searching is full of highs and lows. Stay persistent, stay the course, and just remember, you only need that one yes.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. And let's unpack, as you shared a lot of great ideas here. I think you're absolutely right. I think networking is lead first with how can I help you? I've been very, very lucky in that my field is human resources. So I already swim in the pond where all the recruiters are at, right? And so what I have found, as I'm making connections with new recruiters, having conversations with them and building those relationships, that is the question I'm asking. It's like, hey, how can I help you in the next 90 days? What other roles are you trying to fill right now? Because, my network is vast and wide, and also some really incredibly talented people outside of HR that were just recently laid off at Samsung. So I'm happy to introduce you to IT, go-to-market specialists, other kinds of people. And so that has really been working for me too, is, it's being able to introduce and broker those introductions to some pretty incredible talent for them. Again, it's a win-win for the recruiter, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. It is. And I can't stress this enough. I mean, networking is a give and take, and people genuinely want to help you, but it always kind of makes it a little bit feel better if you're willing to help them too, because you never know when that person is going to need your help, just like you need their help right now.
Yeah. And I also find that, with my introverted colleagues and friends, I go, oh, I don't really like to send out just cold messages, or, I don't really feel, like going to that in-person networking event. I'm an extrovert. I also feel nervous sometimes starting conversations, but I just find that if you can kind of muster up the courage and just do the thing, most times people are very receptive. And I dare say, with all the layoffs that we've heard about in the news lately, I'm willing to bet some of these recruiters have also been through a layoff recently. They can empathize with you on what it feels like to be out of work for, say, 2, 3, 7 months. So I think that you just have to remember that these recruiters are human too, right?
Right. Right. The recruiters are human, and you just made a great point. The recruiting industry and field has been hit incredibly hard with layoffs because
Yes.
naturally what happens is if a company isn't hiring, they don't need recruiters because recruiters are the ones that fill the jobs and are doing the hiring. So the recruiting community has been absolutely slaughtered, I would say, the last 6 to 9 months.
Yes.
It's a hard market right now if you're a recruiter. But what I do say to these recruiters is specifically to people that reach out to me individually on LinkedIn, or even if I post about this, is that just keep at it. Just
Yeah.
keep doing what you're doing. It takes time to find a new job, but you can't give up because, again, you only need that one yes. It's super important to not be discouraged. And the other thing I would say that's really imperative is that we all need as people who are current job seekers is take care of yourself, right? Take care of your mental health, take care of your physical health, take time to do what makes your heart and your soul happy. It should not be 50 hours a week of looking for a job. Take breaks. Celebrate the small wins, right? Every step is a step closer to your goal. Just don't give up, but take care of yourself because that's really, really important.
It is. And, I think that I was talking to a colleague about this earlier today. Reality is a job search is kind of a high stakes situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what job and what company hires you, what salary range that you are willing to accept and that they give you, it dictates so many other aspects of how the next couple of years of your life are going to go. And so it is high stakes in that. It's not like you're just trying to choose what pairs of shoes you're going to wear today, right?
Right.
It is. However, equally, you can't show up to an interview with a do or die high stakes mentality because then you're so incredibly nervous and you're so desperate to impress them on the interview that you're rattling off all the buzzwords and sounding like a nervous wreck. And that's exactly the opposite of what a recruiter wants to hear. They want it to be a natural, calm, flow, confident conversation that go, this person, they know what they're talking about. They are somebody I want to present to the hire manager, right?
I'm so glad you said that. And what I instruct job seekers is to have confidence, right? So not only having confidence, but don't reek of desperation. I think that's really important too. Also, and this is paramount, is it's a two-way street. Hiring is not just, does the employer want to hire me? But it's you as the job seeker. Do you want to work for that employer? And if you as a job seeker are going through the recruiting process and you're not treated well or something doesn't feel right, you always have the power to walk away. I'll give you a perfect example of this. When I was looking for a job a couple of years ago, a company contacted me for a vice president of talent acquisition position. And one of the requirements of the interview process was they wanted me to create a very, very detailed presentation, basically mapping out what the entire function would look like. And that included things like budget, headcount, strategy, processes, technology, procedure. This would have taken me hours to complete if I wanted to do it right. And it didn't feel good to me. So I said to the company, I said, are you going to pay me for my work and my time? And the company said no. So I said politely, I'm withdrawing my candidacy. If something doesn't feel right in the interview process, you always have the power to walk away. And if you ever feel like you're being taken advantage of, leave the situation. Go with your gut instinct. In this particular situation, my gut instinct was saying to me that they were going to take what I created and use it for their benefit. And I hear of companies doing this all the time. It didn't feel good to me. It felt icky. And I very professionally said, I'm not interested. And I never, ever regretted that decision.
You know what I think is a great tip here. I think it's very, very smart. But if a company and you're really excited about the role and they want you to do some full-blown strategy or plan, you say, happy to do that, but let's have this interview in person at your office. Make sure to book a conference room that has a whiteboard, and I'm happy to give you and map it out for you. You go and you do the in-person interview. and you write out the high level details on the whiteboard and you erase it.
Yeah, no,
So,
I think that's a great suggestion. Yep.
right. And so you're not giving them a plan in a PowerPoint. You're not giving them a plan in some sort of PDF that they can take away. You're like, okay, I'm going to talk you through how I would put this strategy together. And you map it out on a whiteboard. And, thank goodness if they can keep fast and write notes. But the reality is you let it go and you erase it. So you, again, show confidence, you show competence, and you don't give the whole farm away, right?
No, that's exactly right. And it's interesting because I see so many posts on LinkedIn of candidates who do just that, right? Or they'll go and the company's saying, I want you to create this presentation, and they create it. And then all of a sudden they're ghosted by the company. I see this happening all the time. And then the individuals rightfully and naturally and understandably get upset because they're like, oh, wow. I spent hours doing this. I've even heard of some cases where companies have showcased someone's work on their website.
Wow.
Of a candidate. That is wrong. So I guess my point is that if you ever feel as part of the recruiting process that something feels wrong, you always have the power to walk away.
So let me pitch this idea to you, and you tell me, you're the expert in networking on this. So if somebody is trying to utilize their time on LinkedIn smartly, like in a strategic way, not just doom scrolling for 10 hours a day, desperately looking for a job, because that's never going to work. But what do you think about this? You create a list of, say, 20 or 25 companies that are your target companies that you really, really want to work with and for because their company core values are aligned with yours. Maybe their campus or their offices are really close, whatever the decision factor is there. So you make your list, right? And then you start to identify key players in that company, like recruiters, doing LinkedIn Premium, do a search for recruiters at, say, XYZ company, right? Then you start to just strategically follow those recruiters, comment on their posts, just really focus your time specifically on those 25 people. And for a couple of weeks, you do that. And then you reach out and you build a connection with them. You actually do a connect request, not an in-mail, but an actual connect request. Is that something that you would recommend as well? Just to build those internal contacts before there's even a job available? Or would you wait until there's a job available, then send the connect and go from there? What would you suggest?
Yes, job searching is all about being proactive. And I actually have a great example of this that happened to me. When I was looking for a job, I did some research on, I think it was about 25 or 30 companies that I was interested in working for. And so what I did was I followed all those companies on LinkedIn, and then I reached out to someone in the talent department. I typically tried to find who the head of talent was at that company, or even the CHRO. Well, one of the companies I reached out to the CEO, and I sent her an in-mail, and I gave an explanation of who I was and why I was interested in a position at her company. I didn't think they even had any job openings. I didn't even see a job opening on their website. Well, what happened was this woman wrote me back, and we had a conversation, and she liked my background. And 2 weeks later, I was hired, and I've been at this company for almost 3 years. So I am a perfect example of using LinkedIn strategically and effectively, and it landed me a job. So again, for the position I'm in, there was no job posting for the job. I had no idea if this woman was even hiring anyone in talent acquisition, but I loved her company. I loved her profile. I felt very good about what her organization was doing. And I felt with my background and experience and skill set, I would be a great match. And so when I sent the message to her, I listed, it wasn't a long note, but I listed some of the accomplishments that I've had and why I feel I would be a good match for her organization. Within 2 weeks, I had a job offer in hand. So I'm a perfect example that if you have a targeted approach and you reach out to the right people, good things can happen. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but it did happen to me.
Yeah. And just to go a little bit deeper in there. So if you have a premium account on LinkedIn, at the time of this recording of this episode, I think you only get about 10 in-mail credits per month. And if a person responds back to your in-mail message, then you get that credit back and you can use it again. how do you handle, when you've hit your peak of your 10 credits and you're out of InMail credits? Like, what do you do then? Send a carrier pigeon?
Honestly, I think, and people ask me this on LinkedIn, like, should I get a premium account?
Yeah.
My guess is yes, I think it might be for some people costly, especially when you're not working, you don't have income coming in. But if I was looking for a job right now, I 100% would use LinkedIn Premium because I think it's worth its weight in gold. And it could be a matter of getting a job or not. And so to me, if you're going to spend money on your job search, this is where you should spend it for sure.
And I also heard, and I think I've seen it as well in my own using of the last 60 days, is that if you join a group where that C-suite person or that head of HR is actually a member of that group, then it doesn't become an InMail credit. It's a free email because you're both linked in the same group. So leverage those groups inside LinkedIn, and that gives you more reign and ability to message people without sort of hitting that cap of the InMail credits.
Yes. And another way of utilizing those groups, and I really love LinkedIn groups, so I'm glad you mentioned this, is that if you are reaching out to someone, you can see the groups that they're a part of. So a commonality might be, oh, Christine, I see that you and I are both members of the Chicago, HR group. And that is a common theme between the two of you. And you can use that in your message to start establishing a potential relationship with that person.
Yes, all of this is good stuff. And again, everything that we talked about in today's episode, by the way, you guys, you can find it at the show notes at thesimplifiers.com. So go there and you can find all of these great details. But are there other ways that a person can stand out to recruiters? Again, if there's 1,000 applicants for the same job, like what's the best way to follow up after you've applied, either to the recruiter or the hiring manager?
So I get asked this question a lot, interestingly enough, by job seekers on LinkedIn that say, I applied for a job last Friday, I haven't heard back. Would it be appropriate for me to follow up? Or I interviewed for a position 2 weeks ago. I was supposed to hear back from the recruiter. I haven't heard anything. What should I do? Job searching, you have to be aggressive, right? And so I could tell you myself as a recruiter, I like when candidates follow up with me because it shows that they're on top of it and it shows that they're still interested in the position. And a lot of recruiters have so many things on their plate. And the thing is, like, honestly, things can slip through the cracks. So in order to be aggressive and stay on top of it, follow up with recruiters. Most recruiters will appreciate the follow-up. There's no negative to it. And sometimes the follow-up could be the difference of receiving an offer or not. So you don't want to be having your application just sitting in an applicant tracking system. Or if you take the time to interview with the company, you don't want them just to forget about your candidacy because they made an offer to someone else. So if you follow up, you're going to be on the forefront of that individual's mind. It is a really, really smart thing to do. And I would suggest to everyone looking for a job, keep track of your job search, right? Mm-hmm. You can have an Excel spreadsheet, you can have it on a piece of paper, whatever it is that allows you to be organized, because organization in a job search is incredibly important. I used an Excel spreadsheet when I was looking for a job. There's really, really good tools like Teal, for example, where you can actually create your organization on their platform. But if you are applying to numerous positions and you're talking to numerous recruiters, it's going to be very hard to remember who you spoke to when and what company they came for if you don't track that on your own.
100%. And, I think that is very good advice. I think hiring managers, are they different than recruiters? Would you still be aggressive if you happen to know who the hiring manager is? Because maybe say they posted on their LinkedIn feed, like, hey, I'm hiring for X position. Would you also be aggressive in following up with them the same way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Because sometimes hiring managers, most of the time, they're the ultimate decision maker. If they want to hire someone for their team, it's not necessarily going to be the recruiter. So being able to find out who the hiring manager is paramount. Now I understand and realize that that's not always going to happen because a lot of these hiring managers, it's not on a job description who the hiring manager is. And unless the hiring manager specifically posts on LinkedIn that they're looking to fill a job for their team, it's going to be a little challenging to know who that person is. But if you do have that person's name, follow up 100%. Yes. And reach out to them proactively as well.
Yeah, I think there's just the fear from the job seeker side, like, oh, I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to come off as a
It's not.
stalker, but you need the nudge because imagine recruiters probably have 30 jobs that they're trying to fill at any given moment. They're
Oh,
juggling
yeah.
so many plates and so many different people and all of that. So how do you make it easy and efficient for them as well, right?
I think hiring managers don't shy away from that. I think that they appreciate that. At least the ones that I've worked with throughout my career, they
Yeah.
like when people follow up because it shows they're really interested in the job and it shows that they're proactive. And I think in a job search, in order to be successful, you have to be proactive, especially nowadays.
Do you hear that, introverts that are listening to us? Just keep doing it.
Keep doing
Reach
it.
out. Don't
Yep.
be afraid. Just do the thing. Now, Melissa, my last question for you today. Are there any other tools beyond Teal, which we will link up in the show notes for people, that you recommend that job seekers use to be a better networker or just be more efficient in tracking their job search efforts?
Yeah, so I'm a big proponent of Teal. There's a company called Ramped, Ramped. I really like what they do. They're in the job search space. There's a lot of companies right now that are, and I love this too. It never used to be this way, but there's a lot of companies right now that are creating tools and platforms for job seekers. I partner with Teal. They're actually one of my partners where it's a very great thing for me to partner with them because I believe in their product so much.
Yes.
And Ramp too. I did a LinkedIn Live event the other day that was sponsored by Ramped, and I posted on my page yesterday about Ramped and all the great things that they are providing for job seekers. So those are my two favorite platforms, but there are a slew of them out there. But the ones that I have had success with and the ones that I know people that have referred them to, they've also had success with Teal and Ramped as well.
Awesome. Again, those links are all in the show notes over at thesimplifiers.com. And just a reminder to everyone that's listening, if you are intrigued by what Melissa has shared today, she does individualized coaching for job seekers. So if you want someone to do an audit of your LinkedIn profile or, personalized mentorship for you or review your resume and help you really hone in and get it right. Or if you're looking to become a content creator on LinkedIn, like how to grow that following and brand, I highly recommend reaching out to Melissa. We will have Melissa's links all in the show notes as well. So you can connect with her on LinkedIn and learn more about the services that she provides as well. So, Melissa, as we wrap up, I got a couple of questions that I like to ask everybody that's on the podcast, and here we go. First and foremost, what's one book or blog that you're reading these days that's either inspiring you or poking holes and challenging your belief system?
Yes. So I just finished a book called Eat, Pray, Love by Cheryl Strayed. And it doesn't have anything to do with my professional life. It was more of a guilty pleasure book, but it was very, very popular at one time. It's actually a nonfiction book about a woman who lost her mother, and then she had a year of self-discovery where she went to India, Bali, and Italy by herself. And it's about her adventures there, the people that she met, the relationships that she formed. It was incredibly inspiring. It actually is a movie with Julia Roberts as well. Highly, highly recommend the book. I loved it. So
It's
good.
so good. It's such a delicious kind of journey. And, I think that is such a great recommendation because sometimes when you get super focused into one thing, you need something that is not related to professional development
Yes.
to just put your brain somewhere else and shift gears a little. So I love that. Tell us, who is one person in your network, somebody that you know personally, you just feel is up to brilliant things? We could shine a spotlight on them, and who knows, maybe one day we'll have them on the podcast.
So someone who I love on LinkedIn, and her and I have actually become friendly, her name is Linda Lee. She posts a lot about motivation and mental health. And I think her posts are really good and really important because mental health is such a hot topic these days. And there are so many people, especially in the job search mode, whose mental health is struggling because looking for a job could take a toll on your mental health. And I love what she posts because she's real and she's authentic. She has, I want to say, well over 500,000 followers. And so we actually did a LinkedIn Live event together the other day, which was great. And we talked a lot about job search tips and tools for job seekers. But she is really, really strong in her beliefs, and she's done a lot in her career. She's not even, I don't think, 25 years old, but she's very motivational. She's very real and she's very authentic, and she tells it like it is. So she's probably one of my most favorite creators on LinkedIn.
So great recommendation. She is absolutely brilliant. We'll link her LinkedIn on the show notes as well if you guys are curious about the work that she's doing out in the world. I believe gratitude and simplicity go hand in hand. Tell me, what are you grateful for today?
So, sounds cliche, but at the end of the day, what's the most important thing in my life are my two sons and my husband, who is my biggest cheerleader. I have a son who is a freshman in college. I have another one who is a junior in college. The other thing that I'm very grateful for is I'm a certified yoga instructor and I teach a couple classes a week. And it's a way for me to do something that I love in a healthy manner outside of my profession. Getting certified in yoga was something that I always wanted to do, but I always had a reason not to do it. And then 2 years ago on my birthday, I woke up and I said, that's it. No more waiting. I'm getting certified. And that day I signed up for teacher training, and it was the best thing I ever did. So it also shows that you're never too old or it's never too late to realize your dreams. And if there's something that you have a passion about, go for it. It's the best thing I did was go through teacher training. So yes, I mean, my family is the most important thing in my life. And then my yoga has just added to my life so much as well. And I'm very grateful for this amazing career that I've had too.
And I'm super grateful for you. I love the content that you're putting out in LinkedIn. I think that you give actual, real, tangible advice that people can utilize today, and not just a little bit of fluff and a little bit of encouragement, but actual tips. So again, go to the show notes to simplifiers.com. You'll find Melissa's LinkedIn profile and you can connect and follow her work as well. Now,
Thanks.
Melissa, final question is this. Someone somewhere is listening to us right now, and they have been in a job search for a stupid long time. They really are getting depleted and feeling really, really, really discouraged right now. What's one thing you could whisper into their ear right now just to encourage them in this moment?
I would say you haven't come this far to only get this far. Job seekers need that one yes. You know, people aren't looking for 10 jobs. They need just that one job to keep going. Every day is a new day. Every day is a new day with new possibilities. And I say this from a place of having been there myself on more than one occasion. Job seeking is hard. Job seeking is stressful. Take the time to do what makes your heart and soul happy. Take care of your mental health. Take care of your physical health. Keep networking. Keep getting yourself out there. The other thing I would say, and I say this because LinkedIn has changed my life, is become active on the LinkedIn platform. I have met incredible people like you and I met through LinkedIn, right? And think of how powerful that is. And now here, I'm honored to be a guest on your podcast. But keep networking on LinkedIn. Reach out, introduce yourself to people. Comment on other people's posts. And if you don't post yourself, start posting a couple times a week. It takes time to build an audience, but you will get there. You just have to be patient. So again, I guess my key takeaways is take care of yourself, take care of your families. You are more than your job. Your job is what you do. It's not necessarily who you are. And just keep at it. You only need that one yes.
One yes, friend. That's it. Melissa, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure speaking with you. I really appreciate it.